Think about the first time you heard about trading the financial market. Something lit up inside you. The idea that the financial markets, the same markets that make banks and institutions wealthy, were accessible to you. It felt like a door to financial freedom that had always been there, and you had finally found it. You already thought of how much money you would have made within a few weeks or months. Throughout my years of trading the financial market and coaching traders, there is a pattern I have seen repeat itself in the career of nearly every trader I have ever observed. It does not matter what market they trade. It does not matter what strategy they use or how much capital they start with. The pattern is the same, almost without exception. When they first discover the endless possibility of financial freedom in the financial market, they usually begin their journey with excitement, consuming every piece of information they can find, convinced that more knowledge equals more money. Then they eventually hit a wall, the inevitable series of losses that seems as though their strategies stopped working. And they get so frustrated that it makes them question whether any of this is real. It is at this point that most traders quit. They call it a scam, walk away, and never find out how close they actually were to succeeding in the financial market. But the ones who do not quit, the ones who stayed and did the work required, eventually arrive somewhere the losses no longer shake them, and the wins no longer inflate them. And right now, wherever you are in your trading journey, you are exactly where you are supposed to be. Let me explain what I mean by that. Every profitable trader who has ever reached genuine, consistent profitability has passed through 3 specific phases. And the exact phase you are currently in is not a coincidence. It is part of the process required to get to the profitable phase. The majority of traders quit trading in phase 1 or 2, but the ones who push through to phase 3 are the ones who eventually become successful trading the financial market. These are the 3 phases, and I am going to tell you the brutal truth about each one. The first phase is the excitement phase. This phase has a feeling that every trader recognizes immediately. It is the feeling of endless possibility. You have just discovered trading, and everything about it fascinates you. The charts, the patterns, the idea that price moves in ways that can be read and anticipated. You consume every piece of material you can find. Books, YouTube videos, courses, webinars, forums. You are studying with the kind of focus that most people never apply to anything else in their lives because the reward feels proportional to the effort. Learn enough, and financial freedom follows. That is the logic, and it feels completely reasonable. This phase is defined by one core belief, that knowledge is the edge. The trader in phase 1 is convinced that profitability is an information problem, that somewhere out there is a strategy precise enough, a confluence of signals clear enough, an entry criteria specific enough, that when all the conditions align, the outcome of the trade becomes certain. And so they search. More indicators, more confirmations, always looking for the setup that removes all doubt before the trade is even placed. What they do not yet understand is the foundational truth that separates every profitable trader from every losing one. Certainty in trading does not exist. The market is not a puzzle with a solution. It is a continuous stream of outcomes with a probabilistic distribution, and no amount of analysis converts any individual trade from uncertain to certain. A trader who has studied for 10,000 hours and a trader who just started trading yesterday are facing the exact same uncertainty on any given trade. The chart does not reward preparation with guaranteed outcomes. It never has. It never will. But the phase 1 trader has not discovered this yet. And because they have not, they keep searching. And occasionally, Because the market has a random distribution of outcomes, their strategy works. They catch a move or series of moves in the market, and the trade closes in profit. And that win does not feel random. It feels like confirmation, like evidence that the system is working, like proof that they are finally close. This is the most dangerous moment in a trader's early career, because what they are experiencing is not an edge. It is a small sample of outcomes that, by chance, has run in their favor. And that sample is building a wrong belief system, a set of convictions about how the market works and what their analysis means. But when the actual reality of the market arrives to test their edge, it will not feel like a test. It will feel like everything falling apart at once. The second phase is the reality phase. This phase begins the moment the market stops cooperating. Not because the market changed, because the sample size of their trades finally grew large enough to reflect reality. The strategy that worked in phase 1 stops producing consistent results. The losses arrive, not as isolated events, but in sequences. Losing trade after losing trade, it occurs in ways that feel personal, targeted, as though the market is specifically identifying every position and moving against it. And this is where the trader makes the most expensive mistake of their career. They conclude the problem is the strategy. So they switch their strategy. They find a new system. They study it, back-test it, convince themselves this one is different, more logical, more precise, better suited to current conditions. And for a few trades, it appears to work, until it does not. And then they switch again, and again, endlessly rotating between systems, each one carrying the same quiet promise and delivering the same eventual disappointment. The trader, in phase 2, has correctly identified that something is wrong. What they have incorrectly identified is where the problem lives. They are looking outward, at the strategy, at the broker, at the market structure, at the institution's hunting stops, when the actual problem is entirely inward. But the truth is that their strategy is not failing them. Their psychology is overriding the strategy before it even gets the chance to prove its edge. Every strategy, even a genuinely profitable one, has losing trades, has losing streaks, has periods where the edge does not produce results across a handful of trades. A strategy only proves its edge over a large enough sample of trades, executed consistently without interference. But the trader in phase 2 cannot execute consistently, because they are operating under 4 fears that are more powerful than any rule they try to follow. The first one is the fear of being wrong, which makes them hold losing trades past their stop, because closing the trade makes the loss real, and they are not ready to be wrong. The second one is the fear of losing money, which makes them exit winning trades too early, because the anxiety of watching a profit disappear is more painful than the regret of leaving money on the table. The third one is FOMO, the fear of missing out, which makes them enter trades outside their criteria, because watching the market move without them is unbearable. The fourth is the fear of leaving profit behind, which makes them second-guess every exit, holding too long, giving back gains, turning winners into scratches or losses. These 4 fears are not personality flaws. They are the result of a mind that was never designed for trading. The human brain evolved to avoid loss, seek certainty, and respond to immediate emotional discomfort. And every one of those instincts is the wrong response inside a probabilistic market. The trader is not broken. They are simply using a mind that was built for a different environment, in an environment it was not built for. And so the losses continue, and the frustration deepens. And eventually, the trader arrives at one of 2 conclusions. The first conclusion is that trading is a scam, that the market is rigged, that the institutions always win, and the retail trader never had a chance. This conclusion usually feels safe and comfortable because it externalizes everything, and it requires no further examination of yourself. The second conclusion is much harder, and it is that the market is not the problem. I am the problem. The traders who reach that conclusion and stay to do the uncomfortable work are the ones who begin, almost without realizing it, to enter Phase 3. If you have found this video valuable, that is exactly what this channel exists to do. Drop a comment below and tell me which phase you are in right now. And if you would like to see more content like this, hit the like and subscribe button. The third phase is the transformation phase. This is the phase where profitable traders are made, and it does not begin with a new strategy. It does not begin with a better entry, a tighter stop, or a more refined system. It begins with the trader finally accepting what the market actually is. The market is not a system that rewards correct analysis with guaranteed outcomes. It is an environment of pure probability, where any trade, regardless of how valid the setup is, it can still end as a loss. Where the best entry in the world carries no promise. Where even a genuine edge, executed flawlessly, produces losing trades as a built-in feature of its long-term profitability. The profitable trader does not accept this intellectually. They accept it at the level that it becomes embedded deep into their belief system. And that distinction is everything. Here is what changes when that acceptance is genuine. The trader stops approaching each trade as a problem to be solved and starts approaching it as a probability where the outcome is uncertain. The question they ask themselves before entering a trade is no longer, "Is this going to work?" It is now, "Does this setup meet my criteria?" If it does, they execute, without hesitation, without needing additional confirmation, without waiting for certainty that will never arrive. If it does not meet the criteria, they wait, without anxiety, without the fear of missing out. The outcome of the individual trade becomes genuinely irrelevant to them. Not because they do not care about results, they do, but because they understand that a single trade is just one data point in a series outcome. And a large enough sample size is the only thing that reveals whether an edge is real. The casino does not question its business model when a player wins a hand. It understands that across thousands of hands, the edge expresses itself with mathematical certainty. The profitable trader thinks identically to the casino. This shift, from trade-by-trade thinking to series of trades thinking, dissolves the 4 fears that destroyed traders in Phase 2. When a trade is simply one data point in 100, being wrong on it carries no weight, because it is expected. And it is part of how the edge works. There is nothing personal about it. The market did not single them out. It delivered one outcome from a distribution of possible outcomes. And over the next 99 trades, the edge will do what it is built to do. This is what it means to think in probabilities. And it is not a mindset that a trader is born with. But it can be developed through a specific, consistent practice. Before every trade, the profitable trader predefines their risk completely. They decide, before they enter, exactly how much they are willing to lose to find out if the trade is going to work or not. They set the stop. They accept their loss fully as an outcome they have already mentally processed, and by the time the trade is live, the money at risk has already been said goodbye to. This single practice removes the power that loss has to drive irrational behavior. Because the loss is no longer a surprise, it was already accepted. When it arrives, there is nothing to resist, no internal war, no desperation to avoid it, just acknowledgement, and they move on to the next setup. The profitable trader has also done something else that the traders in Phase 1 and Phase 2 cannot do. They have separated their identity from their results. But the traders in Phase 1 and 2, the P and L is personal. A winning day means they are good at this. A losing day means they are not. The emotional weight of that attachment is what makes consistent execution impossible, because every trade carries the burden of proving something about who they are, and that burden is heavier than any rule can withstand. In Phase 3, that attachment is gone. Success is no longer defined by the outcome of a trade. It is defined entirely by whether the process was followed. A trader who executed their rules precisely and lost money had a better day than a trader who broke every rule and ended the session in profit, because one of them is building the foundation of long-term consistency. The other is reinforcing the exact habits that will eventually destroy their account. This is the discipline and habit of the trader in Phase 3. Not the discipline of forcing yourself to follow rules while every emotion screams against it, which is what the traders in Phase 2 experience, and it is unsustainable and constantly breaking down under pressure, because their belief system doesn't match the reality of the market. Phase 3 discipline is different. It is the discipline of a mind that no longer needs to fight its emotions, because the beliefs driving those emotions have fundamentally changed. The trader does not hold losses. They let losses close because they have genuinely accepted that losses are part of the process, not evidence of failure, but the cost of operating an edge inside a probabilistic market. And when the mind finally operates in alignment with how markets actually work, when the beliefs match the reality of trading, the results follow, consistently. And by the time you successfully push through all 3 phases, you sit down to trade without desperation, without needing the session to validate you. You look at the charts without wanting the market to do anything specific. And when you identify the setups that meet your criteria, you wait, without anxiety, without the fear of missing out, because you understand that the market will always produce another opportunity. When the setup finally forms, you execute, immediately, without hesitation. When the trade goes against you, you close it, without resisting, without moving the stop. You note it down as one data point in the series of outcomes, and you move on to the next setup. When the trade works, you manage it according to your rules and exit where your system says to exit, not where the excitement of a running profit tells you to hold, not where the fear of reversal tells you to close early. At the end of the session, you ask one question only: did I follow the process? If yes, the day was a success, regardless of what the P&L says. And quietly, over weeks and months, you start having a consistent rise in your equity curve, which once felt impossible in Phase 1 and unimaginable in Phase 2. The equity curve rises, not without drawdowns, not in a straight line, but with a steadiness that no longer feels like luck, because it is not luck. It is the inevitable output of a mind that has stopped fighting the market and started working within the reality of how the market actually operates. Every profitable trader alive passed through exactly what you are going through right now. The market did not become easier for them. The losses did not disappear. The uncertainty did not resolve. What changed was them. They stopped searching for a strategy that would make the outcome certain and started building a psychology that could operate clearly inside uncertainty. They stopped treating every loss as a crisis and started treating it as the cost of doing business. They stopped needing to be right about each trade and started trusting their edge across a series of trades. That is what separates the trader who eventually makes consistent money from the trader who never does. Not intelligence, not access, not a better strategy. A mind that is finally in alignment with the reality of what trading actually is. Now, Drop a comment below and tell me, which phase are you in right now? Phase 1, Phase 2, or Phase 3? Because knowing where you are is the beginning of knowing what to do next.